Hi, we are the UDL team from Monte Vista. I'm Meg Green.
Jennifer Taylor.
Jamie Harney.
And we're here for Unit 4 to discuss grit and flow. So the question posed to us is, what can you do to help foster both grit and flow in your learning environment and when implementing UDL? What do you think, Jamie?
Well, I watched a couple of the videos, and I'm thinking about option 1, responding to option 1 about the relationship and how it helps students sustain engagement in the classroom. And I liked this visual that came from one of it was from the 5 ways to boost student engagement with the flow theory. And I liked how they brought in a sports analogy, which immediately got me interested. So that brought my engagement up, which I liked that, and how it talked about getting kids to work in a zone. And I know that working in a zone, for me, I kind of get lost in my classroom, and I'll totally lose track because I'm trying to prepare things and get things ready for kids to get their flow going, and that flow finding where they can just work without feeling no engagement or too much engagement, but they're just working at a pace that's good for their interest and their learning. And then it's hard to cut that off when you're really in a zone, like he mentioned in his video. It's hard to kind of get some distractions out of the way or interruptions because you don't want kids to stop. But I liked how he talked about providing the appropriate scaffolding, but it has to start with intrinsic motivation. You have to enjoy what you're doing. So just getting kids just to do work isn't helpful. It has to be something that
meaningful and authentic.
Yes.
And that's hard to do at the beginning levels, right?
Yes.
When we're first teaching phonics skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hard to make that.
We're gritting it out. We're getting it out every day in there. Exactly.
And I was reading one of the articles. It was a blog, and it was talking about how grit became this buzzword a couple of years ago, and about how grit is kind of connected with growth mindset also, but how even though some kids have grit, it's not enough. And so looking at that relationship piece, and I feel like here at Monte Vista, we are big relationship builders. And that helps us with our kids to get that flow because they want to work for their teacher. They want to build that relationship and they'll work harder, and they'll try things that are harder, and they'll persevere more because we are really about building relationships.
But the grit that Angela Duckworth talked about, how it's about long-term persistence.
Yes.
Like really that stick-to-it, having a goal and really working through it. And as adults, you said it, Jamie, in my classroom, I got it going, I got grit, I got flow. But to bring that to our children and really help them find long-term goals, I mean, to get to 230 is a long-term goal,
that's
right?
That's the challenge sometimes is to get them. And one of the things that I liked with the new program that we have, Achieve 3000, it has them look at what career they want and where their Lexile level needs to be to get once they graduate from high school and college and different things, what Lexile level they need to be at. And so that is helping a lot of our kids make goals and have grit and have perseverance because they
value
what
it is we're asking them to do.
Yes.
Yeah, give them a why. So that was Jason. I think I told you about the conversation with Jason, who's in 3rd grade. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to learn this? And constantly. Right. So then we talked about I don't know, what do you want to do? And he said, I want to be a Lego designer.
Right.
So we looked up Lego designing and what do you have to learn to be a Lego designer? What kind of education do you need? And now somehow learning math isn't quite so abstract to him because he can see that maybe there's a purpose.
And that's what I was going to say. He has a purpose for learning the math concepts because it's going to get him where he wants to go later in life.
Hopefully.
And it was his,
Yeah.
and it was his choice, and that was a choice he made. And in part of this, it also talks about adjusting their progress. So if they're not kind of getting there, it's okay to adjust, because we're doing that constantly, and what we're doing in our classrooms or in the office or on an administrative level. But helping kids set goals can be hard because some kids don't know even what they should set as a realistic goal, or it's too high or it's too low. So I think we're still at that formative piece where we can kind of navigate that a little bit more for them. And I think, the parent piece is important with that relationship building and bringing our parents in. We've just finished conference week. So I kind of feel like we're in a flow right now. We're going to go on a break, and I hope we just keep that charge of that flow going, because we've kind of given parents a bird's eye view of where we need to go. But the parents need to be a part of it as well.
Yeah. And some of the articles that I read talked about, how we need to give the kids, guidance and guidelines.
Yes.
So they need to have timelines and schedules and
Norms,
routines. And we know how important routines are for our kids,
Mhm.
because they don't necessarily have them outside of school.
It doesn't come naturally.
Right. So
Yeah, and I think it's an important part of that predictability so that they know. And a lot of kids do like having that goal, because there's a lot of kids at our school that are very competitive, and they might not act in a way that's competitive in our classroom, but the minute you give them a number or lifestyle level, I've seen even the younger kids, they want to get there. So having that mindset of just persevering is great when it gets hard, and when they're in a dip where they're not feeling so great, and they come in, they're not feeling, maybe they're feeling hungry or tired for that day, or maybe it's just the goal of making it 30 minutes to get to come play Legos in the office. But
and we had the discussion earlier today about the musicians, and how we have kids who are struggling becoming readers or staying on task. But give them a guitar, teach them a few chords, and then put them in front of an audience, and and now they're learning, and now they have motivation, and now they have some authentic reason to be working and to grit. And there's grit is required, man. You got to keep on rehearsing and practicing.
Yeah. And it's definitely building those relationships between other adults. Also, not just the classroom teacher, but the music teacher in the office, and different things that are helping them to, get that flow going. And it's helping all academic areas.
So the work we're doing is authentic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trying to do it the best we can.
Yes.
Find ways to make authentic. That I think is a challenge in the primary grades.
Yes.
And also giving students that flexibility to decide how best to represent their learning.
Yeah.
Also a challenge in an elementary, especially in the beginning elementary years.
I can see it more in like 4th and 5th grade as they could do a project, or they could do an essay, or they could do a model, or
write a
something.
poem,
Right.
or paint a picture. Yeah.
Exactly. But in the primary areas, we're focused on foundational skills. And that's where a lot of our effort, is so that our kids can be readers by 3rd grade and can be able to do more.
And that
project
poses
based.
and what you're describing in the different ways for kids to produce their knowledge and show it in different ways is great, but we're still under the confines of like SBAC, and kids are forced to sit down and take a standardized test, but they're not able to really maybe they're not successful in doing that in the classroom when we've given them all these other avenues. So how are we going to find that bridge? How are we going to bridge those different designs and learning to meet the requirements and the goals for SBAC and testing? I think that's a challenge, and I'm not sure how we do that. So that's one of the questions I think we need to.
Persistence is a big one, though, right?
Yes.
Because that's what we know about those high stakes tests,
Right.
man. You've got to have persistence. You've got to be
Yes.
willing to keep on powering through it. Even though you're tired, and even though you feel like you can't do any more, you got to keep on going. And so, if they can learn those lessons in other ways and through different experiences, hopefully that will translate. But those are high demands,
Yes.
and it is hard.
It
It
is
is hard to take the time to do those creative and other ways to exhibit your learning, and at the same time preparing them for what we're required to do.
Because the requirements put a lot of anxiety and stress on a lot of our students. Where when we
And a lot of our teachers.
Yes.
right? And so it's nice to know we can give them all options how to express what they've learned in other ways.
Right.
And then we have to lock them in a box, so to speak, for the SBAC. And it's really hard because we've given them options, but now they're not really given the option. But you hope that they can find their flow and get in some sort of
and use that perseverance
Yeah,
that
in
they
their
built and that grit
that
they
mindfulness.
built,
Yeah.
and that growth mindset that they built through
Growth
all
mindset,
of the,
right?
is
We've
huge.
been working on that for a long time.
We
and,
have.
and you see the impact of that, right? You can see that as the kids are getting older, that they're
It's becoming part of their
internalizing that
language.
message.
Yes, it's becoming part of their language. So, and I felt we were in a flow at our school site this week with the kindness grams. We had all of this kindness being just spread around our school, and I don't want that to stop because I really felt like that positive surge. We were in a flow.
Well, and it also
a
was
kindness
so
flow.
empowering.
and it was that opportunity for the kids. I mean, I was saying to Jen,
Yeah.
the leadership the kids were showing,
Yes.
that they were taking on this responsibility. They always showed up. They took care of it. You know, there was no messing around.
No,
It
was
was great
Yeah,
to
it was
see.
great to see.
Yeah.
And I felt the whole community on our school site was a part of it. Everybody was a part of what was going on, and it was really empowering, and the students embraced that.
Yeah.
And so it was a great opportunity. They were definitely intrinsically motivated, and it was great because the students running it at the tables with you and passing them out, and then the kids receiving, so it was very mutually beneficial to everybody.
Yeah.
It was a very positive experience.
All right. Anything to wrap up on grit, persistence, flow?
Our video's dying. Are we too long?
No, it's there. Just my screen's dark. It's still there. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Have a
Happy
wonderful
Thanksgiving. I don't know. Is it? It's
I
still.
think it's